Hey, it's the conclusion of Lostwave March Madness, and thank you to all of those that have been playing and all of those who have been watching. At the end of this video, I'm going to do a bit of a post-mortem because a number of things have gone wrong during this, and it's been a fun experiment, and I'm open to discussing whether it's an experiment I should do again, but we'll get there. Right now, I think it's important to jump into the conclusion. Now, I noted in the community post, but for those of you that didn't read it, this was originally going to be at least 2, maybe 3 videos, and I got sick. So I've conglomerated a bunch of rounds into this one final video. I still think it'll be really exciting to watch. I think you'll really find it interesting where things go. And at the end of the day, I seriously just hope that this has been a little bit of a fun experiment and a little bit of a change of pace. But for those of you that are yearning for a more traditional not listening to video, I am right now working on Forgive and Forget, as well as some more kind of experimental videos, but not ones that are going to involve audience participation. Just one on Bob's Burgers. Yeah, it's relevant, I promise. And one on lesser known Lostwave songs, so expect those this month. That being said, let's jump in to the Sweet 16 of Lostwave March Madness. And starting at the top left of the bracket, we had Fly Away versus the Fallen King. So Fly Away versus the Fallen King. Who's going to win? Well, at the end of the day, it was a tough battle, but Fly Away ended up beating the Fallen King 18-11. So let's go to the next matchup down the line, where Somewhere in the Night faced off against Eastern Wind. Again, this was an interesting matchup. Although a lot of people were saying, who actually voted for a HUD? And either of those says 0. There was actually an issue with the vote count. I actually covered that in a community update. But for those unaware, one person voted for a HUD, or I think maybe about 15 or 16 votes for Eastern Wind. So it was a pretty clear and concise victory for Eastern Wind, facing off against Somewhere in the Night. And where did that wind up going? Well, that wound up for them going against each other. Who's going to win? Somewhere in the Night. And what's the score? Well, we're looking at, again, an 18-10 victory. So a pretty clear win for Somewhere in the Night. And then we had See You Dancing win against Guinea Pig. Again, the score was not 1-1, but was something more akin to 12-3. And going up against Wait Forever versus Stay By My Side. And so, Wait Forever and See You Dancing both were the clear winners here. And going into the 6-16, who's going to pull it out? Well, it goes to Wait Forever, which trounces See You Dancing 21-9. So, what's up next? Well, we have H-Bomb versus Your Eyes. A very interesting matchup. 2 very, very different songs. Who's going to take it out in this one? We have a number 4 seed versus a number 2 seed. Well, you have Your Eyes beating out H-Bomb 23-7. So if you want to talk about trouncing, here's an even bigger one. We will cover where these matchups go, but before we do, let's jump over to the other side of the bracket, where CIA clearly won against Way Cool Family, and Rubia wound up beating Bonnie Lo-Fi. Who's going to win in this matchup? I think it's probably going to be obvious to most of you, but this is the biggest win of the Sweet 16 thus far, with CIA beating Rubia 26-3. That is downright brutal trouncing for Rubia, but I think it just goes to show how strong of a song CIA is. Moving on, we had Poor Christmas going up against Trip to Rio in what I call the Germany matchup. 2 very different songs from the same country. So who's going to pull it out here? Well, you have Poor Christmas beating out Trip to Rio, and with the quirkiness of Trip to Rio, isn't that much of a surprise that Poor Christmas pulled this one out? Probably not. What may be more surprising is just how close this matchup was at 17-10. Going down to My Pretty Doll versus Forgive and Forget. And again, an interesting matchup, but when you look at the score, you're going to see 9-20. And any guesses here? Yep, it's of course Forgive and Forget. It's just such a classic. I think My Pretty Doll just doesn't have the cachet that Forgive and Forget does. Then we go down to the biggest upset of the competition in round 1, I'd Rather Be a Rockstar, going up against I Know, who's going to end up winning in this because they are both very low seeds that wound up beating their competition relatively easily. Well, you wound up with the closest matchup of the competition in round 2 with a 14-15 victory. And the winner here was I'd Rather Be a Rockstar, continuing its journey as a 15th seed into the Elite 8. That is pretty incredible. And now I think it's time to jump to that Elite 8. And so starting on the left-hand side again, with the Elite 8, we saw Fly Away going up against Somewhere in the Night. And we saw Fly Away beat out Somewhere in the Night. Woo! Close competition, 6-4. And Fly Away goes into the Final 4. Going down to the other matchup in the Elite 8, we had Wait Forever going up against Your Eyes. And this again was a fairly close matchup, although a little bit more decisive, as Your Eyes wound up pulling it out 7-3. Going over to the right-hand side of the Elite 8, we had CIA going up against Poor Christmas, and we saw a 7-3 win here. Any guesses who's going to pull this out? Of course, the CIA continuing to assert its dominance and going into the Final 4. Meanwhile, we also had the other Elite 8 matchup, which was Forgive and Forget versus I'd Rather Be a Rockstar. Two very interesting songs, and I'd Rather Be a Rockstar has been a Cinderella story this entire competition. So could it make it into the Final 4 was the question on everyone's mind as we saw a 7-3 win for Forgive and Forget. Finally sending I'd Rather Be a Rockstar home and going into the Final 4, but boy, what a battle I'd Rather Be a Rockstar put up. And even here, a 7-3 matchup against a song like Forgive and Forget just shows how incredible the team behind I'd Rather Be a Rockstar was trying to push it. Now, let's look at the Final 4. In the Final 4, on the left-hand side of the bracket, we had Your Eyes versus Fly Away. And here we saw a victory by Your Eyes, with a vast majority of the votes, about 80% of the votes, in fact, going to Your Eyes. And on the other side of the bracket, we had CIA going against Forgive and Forget. And here, almost all the votes, 18-2, go to CIA. And CIA just trounces Forgive and Forget, sending it into the finals. So, that all led to the matchup we've all been waiting for. Final matchup of all of it, Your Eyes versus CIA. And I think at this point, if there's been a pattern that's been going on, it's been CIA trouncing every single song it goes up against. But Your Eyes has been sneaking past all these other teams, and I think it's possible that, it could end up sneaking past this and winning it all. But of course, now we know, and you're ready to know too. So, drum roll, please. That was my best attempt at a drum roll. The winner was CIA. So, for those of you that had CIA as your ultimate winner, congratulations to you. And with that being said, let's go on to see who did the best in predicting this tournament. And now it's time to announce the winner of the Lostwave Bracket Tournament. Remember, this whole thing is based on every round, so round of 32, Sweet 16, Elite 8, Final 4, Championship match. So, for example, if you had CIA winning your bracket, even if you didn't do as well in the first round, you might still end up winning, because the points-based system is just a little convoluted, but if you've ever done traditional March Madness, you'll know it's exactly the same way. That being said, I'd like to congratulate the third place, second place, and first place winners. So, in third place, we have Some Random Account. Congratulations to you. In second place, we have a three-way tie with Joe Wave, Caden P08, and Luna T, all with 77 points. Congratulations to all three of you as well. So, our winner is Lostwave TT. Lostwave TT, I'll be in touch with you with a fancy digital certificate that you can show off to all of your friends. And if you so desire, one of two options for you. One option is conditional on me actually finding part of it. But if you want a physical gift, I am happy to send you either a copy of Press the Button by Orange, which was a early lead for Damn Munich. It has a song called Trip to Munich on it, and it's kind of rarity, I guess. And if I can find a CD that's currently not in the case, I'm also happy to instead send you my copy of limited edition's Wolf in the Night, which was a lead for Just a Game, and for a while they were the closest match to what Just a Game was. And again, this is a rarity. I think there's not many copies of this out there, so if you're interested in either of these, well, I'll be reaching out to you and you can tell me. I'm now going to jump to my post-mortem about this, and I'm also going to provide a little bit of an update on what's coming down the line, so stick around. Oh, hey, it's you again. Yep, it's time for the post-mortem, and I'd like to discuss a few things that went wrong with this. I mean, quite a few things did. I did this rather last minute, so it was all shoved into the last half of March, and as a result, I didn't have all the time that I really wish I could have had, and had I had that time, I feel like I could have executed this a lot better. For some reason, the options that I had selected, like to automatically advance winners into the next round and to automatically count votes, were both not actually selected, and for some reason, the vote count kept unselecting itself, and so did the automatically advanced winners option, so it was a little bit all over the place, and I think that was all just because I didn't set those before I started the tournament, so that's a little bit of a lesson learned for me. I also feel like I probably should have publicized this more, because if I had, I probably would have gotten more votes. This was all sort of an attempt for me to do something for the community that was engaging, but I feel like the videos that I made in round 1 and round 2 were relatively low quality. I wasn't super happy with them, and I had to film them at night and in other rooms because I have kids, and it was just kind of a mess. Let's be honest. It was not the quality that I want to deliver. I still think this was a fun experience, but I don't think the experience was one that I'm happy with, and as a result, I get the feeling that a lot of you were kind of, not entirely thrilled by it either. Is this something I should do again? If so, I think one thing I might want to consider is waiting for me to have a little bit more of an audience. 32 competitors in this tournament is not quite as exciting as, the millions of people that play traditional March Madness, or other YouTube channels that do something similar that have quite a bigger follower base, which would traditionally be my opportunity to just, say, please subscribe to my channel, and if you haven't, I guess you can, but, I'm trying to be honest here, because I don't think this was as good as it could have been. And that being said, I also am wondering, maybe this would have been more fun as just a most mysterious Lostwave competition instead of best. Maybe I should have done weirdest Lostwave. Maybe I should have done worst Lostwave. Maybe I should have included solved songs. All these things are things that I kind of thought about, and I'd love to hear your comments in the section below. This was not free for me to do. This tournament wound up costing me a bit of money to use this tool called Common Ninja that I used to execute all this. So if I'm going to do this again, I'm going to want to do it the right way, which is why your comments are going to matter. Again, please let me know in the comments below, even if your comments are, this sucked and I never want you to do it again. I'll take that to heart. Alright, with that being said, I think I kind of discussed this at the beginning of the video as well, but I want to give you something uplifting to look forward to, so a few things down the line. Right now I am working on my video Forgive and Forget, so that should hopefully be coming out either later this week or next week. Also working on a video that I'm really excited about. It involves an episode of Bob's Burgers called Gene's Christmas Break, and the difference between Lost Media and Lostwave. And I think that'll be really fun and something slightly different that I'm actually really excited to do. I'm also working on a video after that I'm excited about, which is focusing on a few lesser known Lostwaves that I feel may deserve a little bit more attention than they're currently receiving. And this is relatively new, but I'm also at some point going to do a video on the solve for One More Chance. And as my sub count gets a little bit closer to 1,000, I do have to start working on my 1,000 subscriber special, which is every Googlium song. And I'm already sort of questioning why I ever committed myself to that in the first place, but I already have written about half of the script for that, so that'll be fun when it happens, and I suspect it'll probably happen this summer, if not sooner. Knock on wood. Okay, with all that being said, I am going to end the video now. Again, congratulations to Lostwave TT. I'll be in touch. And thank you to everyone who participated and to those who don't. I really appreciate all of you, and I thank you for sticking around with me as I'm still growing as a YouTuber, and I'm still trying to figure out what's going to work best for this channel and what's going to entertain all of you as much as I can. I hope that I do. And I thank you for sticking around. Until next time, I'm Personal Distraction, and I'm now listening to